Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
You sound kind of like a dancer with your voice. Your voice is dancing.
Yeah.
Well, hello, David, and welcome everyone to episode 234. Today, we're going to talk about how to deal with whiners and complainers, which should be fun. First, I'm going to read an announcement, and that is that there are a group of therapists in the United Kingdom who are gathering together to learn and practice team, and they're growing Feeling Good UK. They meet, and in their meetings, they practice team with each other, although it's not a structured curriculum. So what we want to do is let anyone who lives in the UK and wants to learn and practice team to know that there is a Feeling Good UK group started. And if you'd like to join it or just go on the mailing list and learn about it, please email Peter Spurrier at peter@feelinggood.uk.com, which is pretty cool.
Yes, it's fun to see how team is growing, and we're happy to give Peter support. He was a member of a Tuesday group for some time, joining us virtually, but it was like in the middle of the night for him. And now it's great that we have something so you folks in the United Kingdom who would like to learn this new team therapy can have a weekly group to practice, and we appreciate your doing that.
Yeah, Peter is in the Wednesday training group, and he's in the role of the small group leader.
How's your Wednesday? Oh, that's neat. Yeah. How's your Wednesday group coming along, by the way?
Oh, it's awesome.
That's great.
It's a really great group of people and from all over the world, and really dedicated team therapists.
And you have a waiting list right now in case someone wants to join that, right?
We do have a waiting list. So if you want to join the waiting list, you could email me at rhonda@feelinggreattherapy.com. and we'll put you on the waiting list.
Great. Now, 2 other quick announcements. I have 2 impending workshops, and they're coming up really fast. I kind of forgot to promote them. One is in 2 days on March 24th. I think that's Wednesday. I think this podcast will come out on a Monday. And it's Feeling Great, a new high-speed treatment for depression and anxiety. And it's a full-day workshop sponsored by Jack Hiroshi and Associates in Vancouver, but it'll be virtual, so you can join from anywhere in the world. And that's a really excellent full-day overview of team, showing you how it works and teaching you many of the techniques so you can use them in your own clinical work. And then Jack Hiroshi, I'm honored to be presenting for him again on April 7th. 2021. That'll be a half-day workshop bringing Team CBT to life in real time, a half-day live therapy demonstration, and I'll actually treat a volunteer from the audience, explain how team works, and then bring it to life so you can see it happening before your very eyes, and then we'll end the 4 hours with some Q&A about what you just saw. Now, the links...
Yeah, can I just say something about that? I mean, if anyone hasn't ever seen you work or, provide therapy to someone, I would really recommend attending this workshop because it's like watching magic happen. It's really empowering and, it charges you up to learn more and to understand how the entire team model works.
Yeah, thank you for that. The live demos can be phenomenal, really, and they're scary because it's like I'll be doing a high wire act without a net. I'll be treating someone live right before your very eyes someone I don't know. There will be nothing role played or canned about it. It'll be the real thing. And if you're interested in either of these workshops, the full day workshop on March 24th, the overview of team and how team works, or the live half day workshop on April 7th, that's March 24th and April 7th, you can find the links in the show notes to this podcast, or just go to my website, feelinggood.com, and there's a resources tab. If you click on that, you'll find the schedule for upcoming workshops, and in the upcoming workshop page, you can link for the registration and information about these two workshops. So I hope to see you at one or the other of those two workshops. So what's on tap for today? What are we going to bring the folks today, and why, Rhonda?
Well, oops, I just put my microphone on. Oops. Well, today we're going to talk about two techniques that I don't think you've talked about on a podcast before: how to deal with whiners and complainers. And we're going to teach the Anti-Whiner Technique and the Anti-Heckler Technique. And I think the way this came about is because Angela Poach put together a beautiful list of all the techniques that you have written about in your books. And she, I was reading the list and seeing so many that I didn't, pay attention to or haven't learned, and so I thought these two might be fun.
Yeah, these come back all the way to the time when I wrote Feeling Good. I think I may have mentioned these techniques in there, and I had just created the Disarming Technique, was one of the first cognitive therapy techniques I created, along with externalization of voices and the acceptance paradox. And there were a lot of applications for the Disarming Technique along with stroking, and one of them, it's the way to go if you have people I mean, we've all known people who have a kind of negative outlook on life in general, or for a particular period of time, and they whine and they complain, and when you try to cheer them up or give them some advice or help them, they just seem to escalate in their whining and complaining, and you end up frustrated and irritated with them, kind of secretly, because they're all upset, so you feel like you can't be critical of them, and it's like falling into a trap. And the technique, we'll go over the Anti-Whiner Technique first. And I apologize for the name. I mean, there's no such thing as a whiner. It's not a thing that you can be, but people who whine a lot, and we all do that sometimes. But you use the Disarming Technique, you find truth in what the other person, the whiner, is saying, because usually it's kind of exaggerated what they're saying, doesn't seem entirely true. But if you find truth in what they're saying and then use stroking, find something positive to say about him or her, it generally works like a charm. And in addition, if you want, you can include a little empathy, like feeling empathy, acknowledging how the person feels and how hard it is for them. And that's all you do. And if you limit yourself to those two techniques, you'll discover that it's almost impossible for people to keep whining and complaining. And we can illustrate this, and we can just dive right in if you want, Rhonda.
Yes, let's dive right in.
Okay. Well, we've got this. You have my list of complaints.
Are we starting with the Anti-Whiner Technique? Yes, yeah. I have the list of complaints.
Yeah, starting with, nobody cares about me, or nobody likes me, I never get to do anything fun, life is unfair, I've got so much to do, but I just can't get started, and everything just keeps piling up, and I have to do everything for myself. Nobody helps me. So one of us can be the whiner, and the other will demonstrate the technique, and you can have either role you want, and we can do
Okay, I'll be the whiner, and then later on I'll switch roles with you. Okay,
great. Let me get a piece of paper to take some notes here. And, just there's a menu of beautiful wines, so select the one most appealing to you and hit me with it.
No, nobody ever listens to me.
Well, it's. I feel sad to hear you say that, because it seems so true. People aren't listening to you. They're kind of giving you the brush off. And, I'm sad to say I'm probably the top person on the guilty list there. I don't think I've done a good job of listening to you or caring about you or paying attention to what's going on with you. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you're feeling hurt and alone and maybe angry and frustrated with me. You and with other people too. And you deserve a lot better. You're a beautiful person. Tell me more about that. Tell me what that's been like for you. How's that?
I have nothing else to say after that, because clearly you're listening to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just such a powerful technique, but we make it look easy. See, I just agreed with you, acknowledged your feelings, and showed a little warmth and compassion.
Well, a little, yeah. But you didn't just agree with me. It was just like immediately you came right into my heart, and and you took responsibility. Like when you said I'm the biggest. I'm the most guilty person about that.
Yeah. But people have trouble doing this, really. They can't resist the urge to argue or say, oh, yes, we care about you. We listen, something like that. And then the person just gets more pissed off and it escalates. Let's try a role reversal.
Okay, let's try a role reversal.
I'll get to whine this time.
Okay. Would you pick a different one? Because you made that.
Oh, sure, okay. My students just don't listen. This younger generation, they're just totally screwed up.
Oh my gosh, David, you're so right. Your students aren't listening to you. And I can imagine how frustrating that is. You're such a great teacher. Every class I've ever taken from you, I've learned so much from. And honestly, there have been times I've been in the class when I haven't listened too. I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I get distracted and I feel so embarrassed and ashamed that I've done that because every word that you teach is like a gem. And I've also noticed, you're right, there are a lot of younger people in classes with, even on the Tuesday group, and a lot of the younger people are like looking away, and that must feel so terrible. Like, it must feel so dismissive, and makes me feel really sad because, you don't deserve that. Can you tell me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, can you tell me more about what that's like for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good, Andy. Yeah. What grade did you give yourself there?
Maybe an A-.
Why did you? Well, it seemed outstanding. Why was it a minus?
Because I feel like I babbled a little bit too long.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, maybe because I don't want to give myself an A.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a role reversal then.
Okay.
Yeah, but I thought it was just excellent.
Okay, great. Oh well, my students don't ever listen to me, and this younger generation is totally screwed up.
Things are changing for sure. And the younger generation, the world in general seems pretty screwed up, especially the younger generation. Listening, it doesn't seem to be popular anymore. People are just kind of caring about themselves. And I can imagine that that's frustrating for you and maybe makes you feel a bit lonely and disappointed. You deserve to be listened to. You're a source of tremendous wisdom and knowledge. Tell me more about that and what it's been like for you.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. And then again, why? What's great about it?
I liked that you identified the feelings of loneliness and disappointment. That I must be feeling lonely and disappointed, and that. Again, like that just came right into my heart. Like, yeah, it is like you identified something that I didn't even know I was feeling.
Yeah. I remember once I was going home on the train to Bryn Mawr from Philadelphia. It was real hot. It was the summertime, and the air conditioning had broken down in the commuter trains. And for whatever reason, it was packed that day. You could barely squeeze into the train. And I found a little kind of a part of the end of a seat that I could sit down on. We were all squashed together. People were standing in the aisle, and the guy next to me was in a real terrible mood, and he was just whining and complaining. I think he was ticked off because I sat down next to him, and he felt all squashed. And so I just decided to try this, and I just started agreeing with everything he was saying, and telling him, really positive things about complimenting him and agreeing with everything he was saying. And boy, that guy he just went crazy and just started talking to me like I was his long lost friend. And by the time we got to Bryn Mawr, I think I knew half of his life story. And he just went from, kind of like public enemy number one to a huge fan, and just really friendly and open. It was pretty amazing, but it was just that same technique. Now, if you're interested in trying this, you have to practice it, and you have to realize that you're not going to get an A or an A minus at first. You're going to screw it up, and I don't mean to convey disrespect for you, but I've tried to teach this to a lot of people, and everyone has struggled with it at first. But let's do it one more time.
Okay.
You want to be the whiner or the whiny?
I'll be the whiner.
The whiner.
I'll be the
okay.
whiner, and then we can do a role reversal if you want.
Sure. So you're going to whine, or I'm going to whine?
I'm whining.
Oh, okay, yeah. Life
is so unfair.
Oh man, you said it. I couldn't agree with you more. On every level. It seems like cheating and unfairness have become almost a way of life in America. And I think you've been treated really unfairly, maybe even by me. Tell me about that. You must be feeling like I am sometimes, incredibly frustrated and angry and resentful. I'd love to hear your thinking. How's that?
That was really great.
Okay, why?
Just the agreement just takes all the air out of the balloon. Yeah. You've been treated unfairly, even by me. I'd love to hear your thinking. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cheating then just, you kind of expanded the definition of unfair. Cheating and unfairness are all, and then you broadened it to the, it was all over the country. And so I didn't feel quite so alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And no matter what people say, you can find a way of agreeing with it. And when you do, people just really love it. So if there's a whiner in your life, a complainer, and again, we apologize for these labels, but they are somewhat convenient. This is a technique you might try. It might be your mother saying, nobody seems to care about me, nobody loves me. And you'll be challenged. How are you going to agree with that?
Can I do one more with you?
Yeah, sure.
Because you broke these up into several categories, and one of the whiners was a defiant category. And can we do that? Because I'm going to pretend to be. We
can. Although the reason I took it out was because I didn't want to do it, because defiant to me is a whole new topic.
Oh, that's a new topic.
And it's an important topic. But I'd have to hear more about that and see what the strategies might be.
Okay, that's why you moved them out of the whiner complaining.
Yeah, that's why I sent you the new list that I emailed you.
Oh, okay.
I
see. I was looking at the old list.
The pure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
And the same
we'll
on
do
the
that another time.
Heckler we're about to go on to.
Okay, let's do the heckler.
I created a beautiful list of heckles.
Okay.
So,
okay, well, this came out of your experience as a public speaker, didn't it?
Yeah.
The Anti-Heckler technique?
Right, yeah. And I love treating public speaking anxiety because I used to struggle with it intensely in the past, and now I love public speaking. But there's a lot of ways to help people with public speaking anxiety, but one of a large number of techniques I've created is the Anti-Heckler technique, because many people who are afraid of public speaking are afraid that someone in the audience will become very critical or hostile during their talk, or ask them something embarrassing or intimidating that they can't answer during the Q&A period. And if you learn the Anti-Heckler technique, which is fairly easy to use and easy to learn, it absolutely works like a charm if you do it skillfully. And it's similar to the Anti-Whiner technique we just illustrated. It's almost exactly the same. It's just a slightly different setting. And what you do, you make a list of hostile things that the audience, some audience member from hell, might say during your talk or during the Q&A period. And then you practice responding with the disarming technique plus stroking. And so what you do, whatever they say, you find a way of agreeing with them and complimenting them rather than buying into their invitation to argue or get defensive or become an adversary. And once again, I've never found this technique to fail. It's so effective and so successful.
Well, in the Feeling Good book, you broke this up into 5 steps.
Oh.
Can I remind you what they are?
Sure, I can't remember.
Well, the first step is you thank the person for what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And the second step is you acknowledge that the points they're bringing up are important. And then the third step is you're emphasizing that there's a need for more knowledge about the points that this person is raising. And the fourth step is you encourage the heckler to pursue investigation of the topic more further. And then the last one is that you invite him or her to share their views with you further at the close of the session.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a detailed list, but to make it simple, you just agree with them and tell them how great they are.
Okay.
And that's the essence of it. The other is maybe a little extra detail.
Okay. Well, they can find that in the Feeling Good book.
Yeah, great. It's amazing the research you did to find that.
I know, it's on page. It's on page 145.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you want to be the heckler or the speaker?
Well, maybe I could. First, I'll be the speaker.
Okay.
I'll be the speaker.
Okay. And is there any heckle that you prefer from the list I provided, or do you want me just to grab one?
No, just choose a random one. Just choose anyone you came up with, that we came up with.
Okay. I have a comment here, Dr. Rhonda.
Oh, what's that?
You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm embarrassed to say you're kind of right. That last point I'm making was a little confused. And I didn't really know what I was talking about right then. I was kind of speaking off the cuff and you caught me. And I really appreciate you bringing that up because you're going to give me the opportunity to correct myself and to have a dialogue with, well, actually, I don't want to say that. I really appreciate that you told me that because you're going to give me the opportunity to correct it. And, I'm glad that you're here and I don't want to say that either.
I'm glad that you're here and I hope you drop dead at any moment.
That is really what I want to say. That was a very insincere stroke. Okay, I'm flubbing. So your turn. I'll do that to you.
Try a role reversal. Okay.
Okay.
Well, these are hard. That's why it's important to practice and to stumble a little bit and to go back and forth until you suddenly get, here's how I could handle that. So you go ahead.
Okay.
You're the audience member from hell, and you say,
Excuse me. Sorry, Dr. Burns. You just really don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's embarrassing to hear you say that because most people don't figure that out until they've known me a little longer. But in fact, when I was younger, I knew exactly what I was talking about. I thought I knew a lot. And the more I've treated people, the more I've done research, the more I've learned, the more I realize how little I know. So you're absolutely right. And whatever I say, you should take it with a grain of salt. Why don't you come on up at the break, and I'd love to pick your brain and see what I can learn from you and see where my thinking is screwed up, and then maybe I can even summarize that for the audience at the beginning of the next session.
Oh.
How was that?
That was really good. Actually, I feel a little embarrassed that I heckled you.
Yeah, and then why was it good? What was good about it?
Well, the telling me the story about how when you were younger you thought you knew everything and now you realize how little you know, that was very humbling. It was a very humble way of speaking. And then I started to feel like, oh, why did I even say that to him?
Yeah.
And then you sounded so wise.
Yeah.
You didn't argue with me. It just sounded kind of wise, like, oh yeah, I don't know anything. And then when you invited me up to talk to you about it, I was like, oh man, I'm not going up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you show respect, you show admiration, and you find the truth in what the person is saying. And you don't accept the invitation to enter into a defensive or adversarial interaction. And once you get it, it's super simple, but it's surprisingly difficult for human beings to do this. And you can use this not just in public speaking, but anytime you're interacting with a family member or a colleague and they bring up some kind of challenge to you. It's
Well, I think I started to tell you that I did this with a client. He's a sports coach and for a youth team, and they were allowed to start practicing on a Monday, and he brought them to the field on a Saturday, and so a couple days before the deadline, and someone came up to him and started saying, "Oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why are you here?" And we practiced this after he brought it up to me and was saying, I tried to use the 5 secrets and they didn't completely work. And I said, well, let's try this anti-Heckler technique. And we just practiced it in a role play, but he thought it would have been much more effective. Thanking the other person just immediately kind of takes the sail, the wind out of the sail. And so he wasn't able to actually put into action except in the role play, but it just felt like a very powerful way of responding to anybody who is incredibly critical of you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great example. You want to try another one from the list, and you can take either role?
Okay, I'll take the responding role. You be the heckler.
The heckler. Okay, and is there one you want me to, you have a favorite you want me to hit you with?
Okay, how about an easy one?
Yeah, sure.
Well, you talk too fast.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to choose that one.
Good.
Dr. Rhonda, you talk too fast. I can't keep up with what you're saying.
Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for telling me that. You're 100% right. I've been told that a million times that I talk too fast, and sometimes when I'm up here, I'm so eager and even anxious to get everything out within the time frame that I have that I speed up. And that's exactly what I don't want to do. And I really appreciate you telling me that, because now I will really modulate my speech, and I'll be more conscious of it, and I'll talk slower. And in the future, if I am speaking too fast and you want to, you don't have to do this if you want to, but if you just wave at me, it'll remind me to talk slower, and I will do that. So
awesome.
thanks.
I give you an A+ on that one.
Okay. Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And why? Why'd you get an A+?
Well, I was respectful and I agreed with them, and it was a little problem solve. I did try to solve the problem. That was
okay in this case.
That was okay in this situation, yeah. And then I brought them into to the solution, so that they were feeling part of, like, owning the process, and that it was okay that they told me.
Yeah. Right. Right. I thought that was terrific. Let's do a final one here, and then we'll summarize what we're trying to teach people. I'll have all of these practice things in the show notes, by the way, the ones we're demonstrating, and tons that are just listed. And if you'd like to learn how to do this, you have to practice. And if you just listen to the podcast and are entertained by it, we appreciate that. And if you like the podcast, tell your friends and see if you can help us grow our audience a little bit. But if you want to learn the techniques, you would have to practice with a role play, and one of you be the audience member and one of you be the speaker, and then the audience member will heckle you, I guess heckle you, and then you respond and try to use the disarming technique and stroking, and then get a letter grade, A, B, C, D. Here's what you did right, here's what you did wrong, and then practice again and do role reversals until you can get an A. But I'll be the speaker, and you can hit me with one that's just ultra difficult. Okay.
Dr. Burns, you're quoting outdated research that's already been debunked.
I think you're right. And it's so important what you're saying. You're really kind of a person after my own heart, or whatever they say, because I think that almost all research in our field is shabby and it is going to be debunked. And probably the sources I'm quoting here do date back a number of years, and it sounds like there's newer thinking that's quite different. If you'd be willing to hop up here during the break, I'd love to pick your brain, and I can kind of summarize your ideas for the audience, because I just love to hear what you have to say. It sounds incredibly important. How's that?
I love it.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Again, I like how you said about, you made a general comment about research, and that the research dated back a couple of years, and you were very respectful toward him or her, and invited them to tell you what they know.
Yeah.
Because clearly, maybe this is somebody that has more information, or thinks they have more information information that's more current. And so inviting them up to speak to you, it's just such a sign of respect, and that you would even pass that on to the other audience members.
Yeah.
Is so inviting.
Yeah. And then why is this so hard for us to do, Rhonda? Because just learning these two techniques, say something nice, that's stroking, and agree with a person. I mean, that sounds like fourth grade level, and yet most human beings cannot do this, and probably can't even learn to do this, and maybe don't even want to learn to do this. Why do we have such barriers to learning the disarming technique, using the disarming technique, and showing respect for other people? And I'm not talking about a few oddballs. I'm talking about almost everyone who's listening right now. We all make these kinds of errors. Why is that? Why is it so hard for us?
Well, I don't know. I think I want to be right.
Yeah, and why do we want to be right?
Because I'm invested in my own ego. Like in this situation, maybe I've spent a lot of time putting together a lecture, and maybe I've researched everything, and I don't want someone to tell me that I was wrong, and I want to present myself as the expert.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. 100%. I agree with you. That's awesome. Awesome.
But what else would you have to say? What else would you add?
It's all about ego and protecting our territory. Tell me, David, you're wrong.
David, you're wrong.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I always learn when I'm wrong. And I'm wrong about so many things in so many ways, and some of the things I'm the most excited about are the things I'm the most wrong about. Tell me what you're thinking about. I want to pick your brain, and I really want to learn from you right now.
Oh.
How'd I do?
You did great.
Yeah. And why was it great?
Because you're taking out the black and white thinking, like you have to be right or wrong, and there's no middle.
Yeah, well, say you're absolutely wrong. Say you're 100% wrong. Say that to me.
Okay, you're 100% wrong.
I'm often 100% wrong. Sometimes I'm 200% wrong, to tell you the truth. Tell me what I'm wrong about. I'm so eager to learn from you, and my apologies ahead of time if what I said was totally screwed up. As the Buddha used to say all the time, it wouldn't be the first time.
Well, you're reminding me of that Nelson Mandela quote, which I think I might have said before, where Nelson Mandela said, "I never fail. I only succeed or I learn."
Oh, I see.
And what you're saying is, oh yeah, you're right. I'm wrong about that, and I'm glad when I'm wrong, because I'm not glad when I'm wrong, but I always learn when I'm wrong, so tell me what I did so I can learn from it.
Yeah.
And you're creating a partnership between you and the other person instead of an adversarial relationship.
Yeah, exactly. See, show me where I'm wrong. This will be a gift. I'll learn from you. I model data on the computer all the time, and the computer doesn't have a soul. I use this statistical program called AMOS, the Analysis of Moment Structures. And I put in the data, and I put in the model, and then I run it through AMOS, and AMOS tells me, David, you're wrong. Your thinking sucks. Your thinking can't possibly be correct, because the model you've created can't explain the data. It doesn't match up to the data. And at first, I used to get disappointed. But then I learned to get excited because the computer's always trying to tell me something important, give me a hint. There's something about your thinking that's profoundly wrong. And once I stopped fighting against that and I would let the computer teach me what it was trying to teach me to point out why my thinking was wrong, then I would get a whole new mind-blowing insight and change my thinking, change my model. I've been analyzing this database. I haven't had so much time to do it recently because I'm working on the new app, which is very exciting but time-consuming. But I've got data on over 10,000 team therapy sessions, and then my son just gave me another 12,000. And I've created a mathematical model that's absolutely phenomenal. And I want to replicate it, see if I can replicate it with a new database. But essentially, all the things that we thought about how therapy works turned out to be wrong. And some really amazing things that nobody's talking about turned out to have powerful predictive effects and explanatory power. And it's a thrilling new way of looking at psychotherapy, why it works, how it works, who the most effective therapists are and why, and what they do that's effective and what they do that's not effective. And actually how people get better over time, so you can track the ups and downs of moods and see why that's happening. And that's going to be like probably the first mathematical model ever created of human therapeutic interactions and how they work. And that was the benefit. The cost was just everything in the literature kind of got shot down. Like all the things that people are talking about, the therapeutic alliance and therapeutic empathy, all those things, they aren't worth shit.
But the point that you're making is that if you were fighting and being adversarial with the computer program, with the Amos program, and tried to prove that you were right rather than getting the data back from the computer, you wouldn't have made those.
Yeah, that's right.
Those discoveries.
Yeah, that's what happened with Einstein. They tried to prove that the speed of light was different in different directions, and they couldn't. And everyone thought it was a failed experiment. And then Einstein just said, well, maybe it was a valid experiment and then the theory is wrong. Mm-hmm. And if that theory is wrong, then the data is trying to hint at something different. And what he came up with something spectacular, the theory of relativity, special relativity, and then general relativity. It transformed the human race. It transformed science throughout the world in a massive way. Just the joy of being wrong and accepting the fact that you're wrong and following where the data leads you, following where the truth leads you.
Wow.
But at any rate,
that's cool.
That's just David's semi-demented pontification. But anyway, two practical techniques to you, and they're both based on finding truth in what the other person says and showing some warmth and kindness to the other person, some appreciation, some respect. And one is the Anti-Whiner, Anti-Complainer technique, and the other is the Anti-Heckler technique. And if you are willing to learn them, and you can learn to do them skillfully, they're extraordinarily powerful and freeing.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much, David. That was really fun.
Thank you, Rhonda. Always a pleasure hanging out and shooting the breeze with you.
Okay, well, until next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.